Hey, guys. So today we had an incredible pleasure having Shmuel Ben-Tovim on our podcast, the TradePod. And today is going to be a little bit different approach than the regular basis that we're having here on the podcast, that we're bringing on some traders and we're speaking about like how to evolve your gaming trading and so on and so forth. But today we have brought the head of the fintech community here in Israel. And we would love to expand our knowledge and we would love to expand our connections with like the fintech approach and how we understand it and how we can better understand the markets. Shmuel, it's an incredible pleasure having you today on our podcast, the Trade Pod. How are you?
Very well. Fintech is doing okay. As you know, the surrounding environment could do better. These are tough times in Israel. Of course, it has some effects on the industry, but I would say that so far things are moving quite normal.
Yeah, yeah, the situation here in Israel is never ever been difficult than it is today. So let's put the political and the entire situation that happens here in Israel aside, and let us focus on the thing that we have congregated today. So before we'll start, Shmuel, I would love if you can please tell a little bit about yourself, and I think you'll be a great starting point to starting from.
Okay, as briefly as I can, my career is a mixed bag of public and private sector. I started it in the ministry, which is today called Ministry of Industry, in commercial attaches course, training, officers in Israeli embassies who are in charge of the economic affairs. And after a few years in the ministry, I was sent to my first assignment in New York when I was the economic consul for Israel, in charge of promoting Israeli exports to the United States. And after 4 years in New York, I came back and was recruited by the Ben-Tovim group to start a new subsidiary for them, which I started and ran for a few years. And then I launched my independent career as a consultant for quite a few years, about a decade. And then I changed career again when I was elected to be a mayor of the town where I live, Kfar Shmaryahu. So I went back
Wow.
to public service as a mayor, and I liked it quite a lot. So I ran for a second term and was re-elected. And towards the end of the second term, an opportunity came up to go back to my initial career as an economic diplomat, and I was asked to be the Minister for Economic Affairs at our embassy in London, in charge of all our relationship with the financial center, with the City of London, and with the Treasury, with the Bank of England, etc., etc. And that is actually my introduction to fintech, because every time you try to find the Israeli angle, I don't think we can ever be a financial center as big as London, New York, or Tokyo, but I did sense that we have a winning card in technology, also in the financial era. So we ran, time is too short to go through the whole thing, but the peak of this activity was to try to attract major international banks to open R&D centers in Israel. We thought that this will give a boost to the Israeli fintech industry.
Why? But let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
If asking the financial hubs in the world, which is New York, Tokyo, and London, to open their R&D departments here in Israel, how would be boosting the financial technology community here in Israel? Like, what's their interest? How you how you convince them to open their R&D here in Israel, and why should be contributed to both parties?
Okay, I would say the main argument that actually convinced them was and still is the uh, quality of the human capital in Israel. So if you are, very good in mathematics or very good in AI today, or you know physics, or you know data mining, these are all tools that can serve you in many type of industries. And as he did so well for Israel in cyber, or in defense, or in agriculture, or in the medical field, it can do the same in the financial sector. And actually, the first really meaningful success was the Citibank, which opened their R&D center in Israel, focusing on cybersecurity. At that time, they had 5 R&D centers around the world. When they started to discover what's going on in Israel, they closed all the others, and they kept only the Israeli one as their global center for cybersecurity for the entire financial and banking group. So today it's a huge center. It's a couple of hundreds people in Tel Aviv. But they followed through by Barclays Bank and later by JP Morgan and other financial institutions, credit card companies like MasterCard and Visa, insurance companies like the Japanese Sompo, and there are many examples today. And I think this was very important because on one hand, it taught the Israeli young physicians or mathematicians or professionals how to implement their knowledge in the financial center. But at the same time, it built a knowledge base in Israel for financial services. So out of these centers, some startups started to get initiated, and other Israeli companies found that this is an attractive industry to be in. And fast forward to today, we have now 21 unicorns in Israel in fintech. This is amazing. By the way, and we can discuss it later, no one of them is actually in Israel.
Um, that's a bit problematic, and I think it's like a way. It's a different conversation than what we're gonna be having here today. But I'll tell you something. I'm curious about like how you're the head of the financial community here in Israel, and I want to ask you, how do you approach new startups? And how do you see new startups, and how do you help, or how you can help new startups with your experience to help them grow and to help them, achieve significant success and to enrich the economy and the financial economy here in Israel, especially.
Okay, let's try to find out what does a startup need. And you're now in the business, you know exactly firsthand.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
so first thing I think that is very helpful is trying to connect you with the old guys. Maybe to be a design partner for, I don't know, Bank Leumi or for Migdal. That will help you a lot, okay? Because we are a community, we are not an association of fintech companies. We're a community, and a community has the entire ecosystem. And this ecosystem has fintech companies, has financial institutions, has the regulators, has consultants, has investors, has the academics. So everyone who has anything to do with fintech is part of our community. And this is why we are able, first of all, to make all these contacts between the newcomers and some of the old guys who may be interested in what they're doing. So that's one thing. Second thing is, of course, fundraising. If you're looking to raise funds, we try to put fintechs, young fintech startups in touch with the VCs or with angel investors, etc. Third, you need some know-how. So we run fintech courses. We run online courses once in a while. The last one of them had to do with smart contracts. Again, something very new in the field. And I think that all this networking that we are bringing is a huge asset for startups. Last but not the least are the regulators. As you know, we can't move anything in the fintech area without having at least one regulator behind you.
Yeah, of
And,
course.
and because we are now part of also the innovation community, which is a government initiative, we have very first-hand approach to the regulators and can try to clear up problems, to promote issues with them. So this is in a nutshell what we can do for a startup.
I think
Speaking of the fintech community, what does a typical day look like for you as an executive director of the Fintech.IL?
Okay, I would say a typical day, first of all, has to do with really approaches that I get from various companies. It can be from a bank looking for a solution. It can be from a startup looking for a partner. It can be from an international bank coming to do some scouting in Israel and find what is there for them. And this week, for an example, we're putting together a fintech delegation to the Far East, which will take place next month, to Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong. At the beginning of the week, we had a fintech delegation to Africa, to Nairobi. And we are putting together some conferences, and our conferences, again, are a meeting place with all the ecosystem. So now in the plans is a conference on ESG and fintech, on fintech solutions for SMEs, payments, etc., etc., etc. So each of these initiatives actually bring together players that have interest in it. So when we ran last year a conference on InsurTech, and we also ran a competition of startups to be presented at the conference. Then in the same room, which happened to be in the offices of Microsoft in Herzliya, you had the largest insurance companies, their tech people, their recruiters, and startup companies, together with consultants and lawyers and accountants and other people who are supportive of that. So this creates an opportunity to everyone, for the startups to meet the big guys, and for the big guys to see what's new in the market.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'll tell you that like as a CEO and co-founder of like a startup company, I I get along an incredible amount of difficulties from all around, and the helpful and the desire to help from the community members is incredibly important to me, and it's incredibly important to the for the progress of the company. And I'll ask you a different question right now. I would like to know how would you approach an trading startup? Um, what innovations do you think it's the most relevant innovation in the algo trading space, and how you can literally make a company that's been highly resilient and able to raise incredible amount of money as an algo trading company?
Okay, you probably know that the agro trading industry has suffered some bad publicity in Israel in recent years, and some
And why is that?
because it was conceived to be a branch of the gambling industry. They thought
A
that,
branch of the
there's
gambling?
not
Really?
gambling. Yes, that this it's not actually economics or business. It's something that has to do. And there were some. We have to admit, there were some players here that didn't play it fair, and some of them even crossed the criminal line. So the beginning was not very promising. On the other hand, you have a star like super derivatives. I don't know if you came across them, but super derivatives, I think, is still the largest player in Israel in algo trading. They I think they already exited a few years ago, but they made billions of people of money, and they did very well. So I think that for a startup, first of all, like in every startup, it has to show something new, something that hasn't been done before, maybe a new application of technology into the industry. And again, we can't do without mentioning AI here. It's crucial. And on the other hand, letting the regulators really feel that they're on a sound ground because of their experience. So I think that they're in a way suspicious, although I think the market will go there because we see people like Bridgewise or others that are actually, maybe they don't, are not actually algo traders, but again, they adopt technology into the decision process of making investment in decisions. So in a way, they are the same neighborhood. But to give you a more specific answer, it depends what you're coming with. What's your ambition?
Yeah. So you know what? Let's play a hypothetical solution, a hypothetical situation here. For example, me and Alan work at a startup that automate human behavior in the live markets. And the way that we're going to be doing it is like by actually analyzing each and every single trade that the trader have made over the last few years, and provided an enormous amount of money each and every single time. And he's been able to remain consistent even though market cycles recently have been incredibly difficult to pass them. So this is, I think, an approach that I started by interviewing a bunch of entrepreneurs and knowing a lot of business in our space. And I would like to ask you, what differentiates the rest of the startups that are successful, not in our field, in the arbitrating field, but in other field in the fintech industry, to those who aren't successful and to those who can't maintain their value over time, and to those who actually make it, and to those who actually don't make it, there is a huge difference. And how you can literally help those companies in their early stage in order to grow, because it's an incredible, difficult mission.
Yeah, of course, it's a very wide question, but I can tell you a few things. First of all, I think that the first thing that everyone, an investor,
You know what? Let's go back to the algo trading space. Um, um, what differentiates super derivatives as a super successful company to the rest of the companies in our area, in the algo trading area, that in one hand benefited so much their investors and their employees and so on and so forth, but on the other hand, we have like a tragedy to the algo trading space here in Israel. So, what differentiates super derivatives than the other startups, and how you learn to contribute other startups in this space to grow?
yeah, I would say that every investor or every consultant, when looking at a new startup, will ask himself several questions. The first of all, I think, is do the founders really know to identify what is the challenge existing challenge in the market that they are trying to answer, to address. Is it a real challenge? And is the solution that they're coming with has a potential, a business potential to address this challenge successfully? So I would say that even before looking at what you're doing is asking, have you identified the problem well enough to make your next move? Then comes, of course, the obvious question, is your solution is giving a better answer to that challenge than others have tried or any other competitor in the market?
How much better though?
Excuse me?
How much better?
How much better? In the way that you can prove that your business model is sustainable and expandable and can grow. If it is only marginally better and you can get out of it, I don't know, 1 million company in the next 5 years, it won't be interesting. Okay, so it has also not only a qualitative answer, also a quantitative one. So it's really trying to assess what is the potential in the best case scenario, in other scenarios, to bring not only return to the investment, but to make it something big. Then comes, of course, the technological question. Some founders think that technology comes first, but I think it comes second. Because after you've convinced that you have identified a problem and you have a solution for the problem, then comes the question, how do you do it? What is your technological innovation? What kind of new technologies you are incorporating into it, and so on and so forth.
I will tell you something that I agree with you in this one because you know, as a startup founder, I can self-assure that you know, each startup and like it's an individual story. Like and each idea demands the right taking care of its founders. Um and what I'm actually trying to say here that it's actually dramatically individual. Like yesterday, I spoke to an entrepreneur who's been really experienced, and like he raised an incredible amount of money for his companies that he had founded back then in the last 10 years. And he told me so many things that they weren't relevant to me because each story is different by its fundamentals. So
That's right.
actually, what I'm trying to say here that you're actually right, and I'm super agree with you on that point. And I want to take that conversation to another place. Back to your career. How, like we all know how you have been involved with fintech, but what caught your attention within the financial community? Why do you think the financial community is that sexy for you to participate with? Besides, like the rest of the industry is out of there, and we have so much of them.
I think that, first of all, the financial community at large, when you talk about, of course, the legacy banks and insurance companies, I think the best synonym that comes to mind is conservative. They are very, very conservative. They are conservative in their way of thinking, but they're also conservative in their technology infrastructure, because most of them were built and grew up in the days of the mainframe. They built huge infrastructure, physical infrastructure, computer rooms and halls and palaces, which are becoming more and more redundant. And they need to reinvent themselves, not only business-wise, but also tech-wise. And this gives a huge opportunity to the fintech industry, because some people look at the fintech industry as something which is competing with the banks or taking business of them. It's true for some cases, but in most cases, fintech will help the old guys to become competitive and modern by incorporating into them their technology, sometimes by acquiring them, or many ways of cooperation. So, there is a very famous Israeli entrepreneur, Nir Tzuk, who is the father of Palo Alto and other initiatives. And he says that the banks are doomed. Okay, it's a very extreme view, but he says they can take hundreds of fintechs and buy them and incorporate them. They are doomed. Why? Because they can't change their set of mind as quickly as needed to adapt to the market. So they will survive like, those aircraft carriers that it takes them ages to turn around, but that's the end of them. On the other hand, people say, okay, if the banks really look the right way and is open to changes and is flexible enough, they can survive and maybe even beat some of their fintech competitors. And the truth probably lies somewhere in between. I don't think that the banks are doomed, but some banks are doomed because they won't be quick enough to change, or insurance companies. And so it is a very dynamic and involvement environment. No one can tell you what's going to be here in 10 years. In the world, I'm not talking about Israel, of course.
Yeah.
So it's a very fascinating space to be in. And when Israel has such a ticket.
In such an environment, like I can completely understand you. Like, um, it is fascinating to intervene within the financial community and especially financial technology. But I would like to detail my question. I would like to take you onto a road of exploration. I would like you to help me. If let's hypothetically say that I'm a newbie to the financial industry. All right. I would like to ask you for your guidance. And what do you think is like the most critical aspects that I need to cover, like in terms of connections, relationships, entrepreneurs that I know, in order to have a significant success within that industry? Because that's incredibly important. Because without it, you know it better than I. You cannot be successful. So looking backwards, hypothetical, of course, how would you guide a typical guy like me, like Alan, like all of our listeners to participate within the financial community in their space? What connections are important to reserve, and what entrepreneurs are like you have like an interest to know, and how you can get a full intervenience within the financial community in your space, out of your experience, because like the financial community here in Israel is being connected to 40 different financial communities around the world, and like you must be aware of like the critical things that we need to implement in order to make it happen within the financial community.
Look, no doubt that connections and networking and all these elements are essential. But I get back to what I said before. If you don't come with the right solution to the right problem, it won't help you much. So maybe your contacts will get you 10 meetings more than someone who is not having such a network. But at the end of the day, you will end up with nothing because you didn't deliver the goods. So, and that's exactly when we come into the picture, like in the fintech community. We try to find all these people who may have the right answers to the right problem, but don't know what to do about it. They don't have the contacts, they don't have, no one can open the door for them, to investors, to the old guys, anyone who is relevant to this project. And here we come into the picture, because when we put our network into work, that can compensate for what you didn't bring up from home. But again, if let's say I get you, or let's say Tamar or anyone else will get you to see 5 investors, and after 5 meetings, they will all get back to her or to us and say, look, the guy is fantastic, but there's nothing substantial to offer, then it won't help if we'll get you another 10 meetings. Maybe you have to go back home and see something is not right. On the other hand, of course, if they all become very enthusiastic and think about what fortune came to them meeting Afek, then we may think maybe to upgrade. Maybe the people that we introduced you are not the highest level that we can bring. Maybe we can get you to someone else, or we connect you to someone not in Israel. So it all boils down to what you have in hand. And of course, I didn't mention the quality of the people. I know you a little bit already, so I'm not questioning that. But of course, people will look at the people, at their experience, at their integrity, at their tech background, etc., etc. So I would say the combination of the right people with the right idea is what is typifies the winning startups.
What advice would you, yeah, what advice would you give to fintech startups looking to partner with established banks? What do banks look for in such partnership? Like, what they look for exactly? They want to innovate, yes, but they also have a system. So there is a fine line where they want innovation, but they also want to keep the system as it is. How do you build trust with banks to collaborate with them?
Yeah, that's a very tricky question, because you said it very, very right. They both have their tendency to protect what they have and to keep their market share. And on the other hand, they can't think of someone else doing something new that they have not found before. So it's a battle not only with a bank, it's a battle within the banks. We see it between departments of the bank. Comes the innovation, let's say, department of the bank and says, look, I have a fantastic idea of using AI in investment decision. And it goes to the people who deal with it in the bank, the advisors, the consultants, the fund managers. And they say, look, we are so happy with the way we're doing it today. Don't bother us, okay? So this guy has also an internal marketing challenge to sell the solution that he thinks is right for the bank to the people who are about to use it. The way that we try to tackle it is we go to these large institutions and tell them, we won't come with you with solutions unless you come to us and tell us what you're looking for. So we actually force them to determine what is the challenges, what is the problems that they are trying to solve. It can be like the customer journey within the bank. It can be operational challenges. It can be, of course, business tools like algo trading. It can be many ways, but if they are able to do an internal work and come back to us and say, look, we are looking for solutions in ABC, then we also, as a community, can be more effective, because we can go then to our people and say, look, Bank X is looking for a solution for 1, 2, 3. If you have anything to offer, come up and show it. And then we are not just knocking on doors, we are actually responding to what they told us they need. It's easy to say, and it's a long process because all these institutions are not used to think in what we call challenge-based search. They like to sit back and, come and show me what you have, and I'll tell you if it's right or not right. But we're doing away. We're having some successes with it, but it's a long way to go.
How long it is?
How
If you-
long?
Yeah, how long? Couple months, couple
Yes,
years?
couple of months normally.
Couple
yes.
months.
Yeah.
Do you see a future where fintech and banks are indistinguishable?
I think they will remain this way because some of them, as I said before, will be swallowed by the banks and will be adopted by the banks. And after a few years, you won't know where that he was once a startup separate from the bank. But I think that when you look, and again, I come back to Israel and the unicorns. Yes, I don't see Lemonade becoming part of Migdal. Okay, they have an insurance. They are an insurance company. They have a totally different setup. They have a different set of mind. They have their way of doing business, and they will forever compete with the old guys. And the old guys will not disappear because many people, maybe most of the people, will keep doing business the way they did so far. But especially the younger generation will be more open to new solutions. And the same goes with banking or with other areas.
I really hope that and someday we'll have much clear and a brighter future within the financial community and like the financial and the financial offerings like as a customer I'm saying that I hope for the greatness of the fintech successful because it's gonna have a tremendous impact over the world. And I would like to ask you last question, basically. And that question is going to be around how impactful the fintech is over the world and how we can accelerate its impactful ways, over a countless period of time.
I think it's already impactful, but not to the extent that we want to see it. And again, the best way to look at it is what you just said is from the point of view of the consumer. So if you can compare, let's say, the British consumer and the Israeli consumer, the British consumer is doing much, much better. Why? Because the regulatory environment in Britain is much more open and much more efficient than in Israel. So the British customer is getting more choices and more competition and lower fares for what they consume in financial services than the Israeli one. So I think that like in any other industry, like in consumer goods, it's a consumer service. Of course, there are also business customers, but at the end of the day, there is a customer. And if the customer is not happy, he doesn't think that he's getting the best service for what he pays for, then this service provider is in a problem. And I think that fintech companies are exactly there. They are coming up with solutions which are cheaper, which are quicker, which are more efficient. If today, I don't know, you want to transfer $1,000 to America and you do it through the bank, you'll take us 3 days and you will pay for the $1,000 transfer probably $2,000 in commissions. Okay, and next door is a fintech company that does the same, and you get it in 5 minutes, and it costs you a fraction. What will be your choice? There's no doubt about it. So in such services, and we see it in particular in the payments industry, there is a huge revolution which takes all the old guys out of the picture because they were not quite quick enough to come with less expensive solutions and more effective ones. So the future of the fintech industry lies in continuing to address the needs of the consumer. That's the name of the game.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree
A
with you,
question
Shmuel. So,
about a question also about ethics. What are the ethical implications of exporting fintech solutions to developing markets?
Okay, you now open a totally new discussion that we need
Yeah.
another at least 45 minutes because especially the use of AI is creating huge ethical and moral
Yeah.
questions, privacy questions, and it's a whole world that needs to be fixed by the regulators. Europe has already gone taken some steps in this direction, but it's very far from being solved. Like in everything, new solutions bring also new problems and new challenges.
For sure.
absolutely, absolutely, of course. I think the slow pace of the regulators are they're slowing the entire economy, but they're in some sense, I think that they're doing their job like backwards after the world paces, which is which is a no-brainer to me, like in a super negative way. So, Shmuel, I would like to thank you for your participants within our podcast.
It was a pleasure.
And
Thank you.
yeah, it was an incredible pleasure talking to you today because, like, your episode was significantly different than what we're having here on a regular basis. But having like a refreshment from what we're doing each and every single day onto like a different approach, a little bit, trying to understand how everything works on a macro level, sounds incredibly good to us. And I think that that will be an incredible benefit to our listeners. So I would like to thank you again, and I really appreciate your participants. And thank you.
Thank you for having me, and my pleasure.
Our pleasure.
Thank you, Shmuel.
Bye bye. Thank you.